Good afternoon and welcome here today on another Kerfuffle webinar. It's the fantastic Jerry Lyons. Jerry, I see you. You give it all over the web on that Facebook and Twitter and everything else about the hair, but you come onto my show and you're not willing to get it out, are you?
Yeah.
Oh, so
this is why I've had to.
Yeah, so people, what you need to know is that he did talk to me off camera, and he did admit that he's had a little bit too much of a fiesta. Not the 20 minutes, the executives talk about. You've had a proper 2-hour snooze, aren't you? So you're not in a good place.
I'm a little bit groggy.
Okay,
yeah, I'm a little bit groggy. What time is it? We're recording this at 4:10. I thought I'd have 10 minutes at 2 o'clock.
Was it just a thought? I'm going to be speaking to Simon Well.
No, I thought I was just going to prepare. I need to feel fresh for Simon and for the Kerfuffle audience. I want to be professional. A bit like JFK used to have power naps under his desk. Did you know that? He'd sleep under his desk for 15 minutes.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. Do you know Christian Bolshan, who has sold his business into Van Milder, tenant referencing into Rightmove for fantastic? He first met me while I was having a kip at the Guild of Estate Agents under the table, and he'd been really keen to get integration with Reapit. He was like, "Mr. Whale," and I was like, "I'm having a kip."
Was this during a conference
or during a conference? So they were talking down on stage, and I just decided to have a lovely little kip. Anyway, they talk about all great warriors sleep when you can, don't they? So
this is it. This is my approach. The way of the samurai.
The way of the samurai. I like that. Okay, we'll go with that. Mr. Lyons, this isn't about me. I know that's what we always fall into, that trap of me talking about myself. This is all about you today. And what I love about today is it's not even about you from a business sense, is it? Because what we're here to talk about today, and I'm delighted to do that, is we're here to talk about your fantastic Karma Club and in general as well, why agents should be getting involved with charitable endeavours, of which, as we know, many of them do already. And I think we were going to kind of widen it out, that being very honest, that actually you can do good things and it can be good for your business. And the two can go hand in glove quite capably there. But so we set the scene. Obviously, you are the master of content, the Count of Monte Fisto and all the rest of it. I was getting lost there. You do a huge amount of content for some of the best agents in the country. But a key part of your proposition as well is this Karma Club, isn't it? Could you just give us a bit of context so everybody kind of understands?
Yeah, sure. So the Karma Club, basically, I run a content membership club for estate agents where they get a set amount of content every month as part of their membership. Now, part of their membership fee, or fiver of everyone's fee, we take out and put into sort of like a digital kitty, as it were, just put aside. And then at the start of the month, we go back to the members and say, right, this month, it's always about 600 quid now. We sort of leveled out the membership. So it's about that. And we say, right, we've got 600 quid to distribute to good causes of your choice, really. So what we found is that members will often say to us, well, I want to give £100 to, let's say, the local school, local sports club. The big one the last couple of months has been laptops. Yeah. So I want to put 100 quid towards laptops to go to a school, and we'll match that 100 quid. So we've been doing that for a year now. So I think last year we gave away the best part of it's about 6,000, 6,500. I should know this.
That's really good.
Which is good because we're only a small company. There's only like me and Wendy, the only sort of.
Wendy does the work, doesn't we? We all know
that. Yeah.
You have a kip on the sofa and she just wakes you up.
Wendy's the one that actually can stay awake longer than the 4-year-old.
Look, you're at that stage of life. Don't apologise to anyone, my friend.
Oh, God. And then after this, I tell you what, if the bowls club was open, I'd be down there now. Don't worry about having a game of bowling. So we do that. And it's it started off as an idea just to give back. I'm a big believer that businesses can do a lot of good.
Yeah.
And that it shouldn't just all be about, I'd lose my purpose if I thought it was just about us trying to hit a profit margin, or we've got
there's enough corporate coldness out there, isn't there? And one thing that agents are, I said, we mentioned at the outset, it's not we're not having a pop, and we're certainly not saying that a lot of agents do a huge amount of work. I can't think actually of another industry that is so involved at local level doing stuff. I think the problem is, and this is why I love things like the Karma Club and Agents Giving, is it gets watered down just because they're all so micro, aren't they? Yeah. And by bringing them under the remits of Karma Club and Agents Giving, actually it becomes greater than the sum of what's going on, doesn't it? And actually, the whole industry gets genuinely gets a karma benefit from that.
Yeah, and it's 100%. I mean, listen, I remember I was watching this program about Patagonia, the clothing brand, which is my go-to brand for anything ethical, responsibility, the way they do business, and that sort of stuff.
You know what I go for? You've heard of the High and Mighty store. I go for Low and Squat. That's my particular brand. But anyway, yeah. So Patagonia, they're one of these companies, and there are a lot of them, aren't there, these days, that ostensibly are really, they're wearing their badge on their sleeve. And so what just in terms of that, actually, just not to divert it, but I saw this week that Guy Gittins, the CEO of Chesterton's, was the first agency to go for carbon neutral. So slightly different, obviously, but it's all about that moral compass, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's 100%. Like with what I want to speak about today wasn't just the Karma Club. I think, like you said, I think estate agents as an industry are the most generous and community-minded people. Now, the reason why I mentioned Patagonia, because the guy, his name is Yvon, I can't pronounce the surname, it's a sort of French-Canadian surname, but he said...
We voted out, Jerry, we don't have to pronounce that name.
So let's call him Yvon, let's call him Smith, call him Smithy.
Evil foreigner.
French-Canadian Yvon, but via America. He said for his business to do good, they have to do good. So... that makes perfect sense to me, because our KPI as a business, right, is not our key performance indicator, it's our karma performance indicator. Because I know if I'm giving 600 quid a month, we're doing all right. And that's not, I'm not saying that's a lot either, but it
is a lot. No, it absolutely is. Because here's the thing, Jerry, if everybody was doing that, if every company was doing that, this world would be a very different place, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and 100%. And the thing that we provide as well is, because of the offshoot with my background in PR, is when members put a donation forward and say, right, would you donate £100 to the local book club? We've had that before the pandemic. That was quite a popular one. Educational projects. We'll provide the PR around it as well for free. So we'll say, right, basically I take a day a month and I'll work on Karma Club projects. But then I look at across different industries, and the estate agency is for me probably the one where I see estate agents doing amazing things.
Why do you think it is, Jerry? Why are there so many givers in this industry? Is it because I think is it about 70%, 80% of agents are 1 and 2 office agents? So by definition, these are small connected businesses.
I think, right, if you look at the first lockdown, the agencies that acted really quickly were all small independents.
They could move like that, couldn't they?
Exactly. But also, I noticed that it was the estate agents, and this is just anecdotal based on experience and dealing with people for a few years. It was the estate agents that you'd think, yeah, but that's them anyway. It was an instinctive reaction rather than a conscious business decision. And trust me, it is brilliant for business. I've noticed that we did a thing where the people that have donated or we've worked with on Karma Club projects, they've not left us, like as a membership model. So I think they feel more engaged, and it's a way to be, because we've got a micro community in our content club, and Karma Club is definitely a key part of that. It's like the gel that keeps a lot of the things together, because people think they're part of something. And I think, especially if you have staff, if you're an agent or a supplier who's got staff, it's a great way to motivate them as well. When you say, right, this is what we're about. We're clear what we're about, and we've got 3 values. You probably can't see it because it's on.
I've got it. I can't make out the top one.
Right, that says creativity. Let's have fun doing things differently.
Yeah.
AKA, let's piss off for a sleep in the middle of the day for 2 hours. I feel fresh
Testify.
now.
Testify.
Yeah, yeah. Creativity. Try and nick a kip whenever you can.
Yeah, I like it.
But anyway, our values are creativity, community, and value. Community is a core one. You know, we look for everything and say, well, how can we give back to the community? And we're looking at becoming what's called a B Corp. So it's where your ethics are kind of like, not tested is the wrong way of putting it, but you show in formal way, which would be difficult for me because I hate thinking formally. You put it down in paper, what you're about, and you get branded a B Corp. I think there's one called, have you heard of Just Move In? I think they're a utility switching company. They do a lot with estate agents.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I noticed them last week or the week before. I see an advert they did, I think it was in Pi or EA Today, and they're a B Corp, and they're probably the only one that I know in the property.
It was when you said it was ethical. Did you see me just glaze over there? I had the idea of ethics was there. Okay, so I think I understand obviously the rationale for this, and one thing that you just said really resonates is that actually more and more the job market is a genuine two-way market. Yes, you're giving somebody a job, but often you've got to sell them the business. And more, certainly of Generation Y or whatever, they want to know what you're in it for, don't they? They want to know that they are doing, that whether they're all Greta Thunbergs or whatever else there, a lot of them want to be seen to be doing good because they can.
Yeah, they want to feel part of something.
Yeah.
If you have people working for you, whether it's like we've got like freelancers doing stuff for us and design and stuff like that, and we send them whenever they start working with us, we send them the value sheets. It's only free values, but at least they know what we're about. And like for us as well, the values are, we'll pay you on time. You send us your bill, we'll pay it within 24 hours because we realize we deal with small businesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? So it's not just about giving out money, it's the way you conduct yourself. And I think if estate agents can get that across to the public, and the good ones really do. You look at this laptops for schools appeal, right? Look at this. It's an interesting thing, right? Stephen Brown should be sainted for what he's done with that appeal,
Yeah, it's amazing.
And that was originally set up just for suppliers. But if you go down the list, there's a lot of great suppliers have chipped in and gave dough and that sort of thing. But if you look down the list, there's loads of estate agents. So they've contributed so generously to something that wasn't theirs to contribute to. They weren't being asked, but they just stepped up. And I go down that list of those names on there, and I can tell you a lot of those estate agents have given multiple amounts to their local area, because I work with them, not all of them, but there's lots of them I work with, lots of them I don't. And you think, wow, that's so generous. And the communities, if they're in one, like you said, one office, two office areas, so they're part of the community. That will get out into the community thanks to social media. I think we spoke about it on a webinar that you had three or 4 weeks ago. The most shared content, and this is coming from someone who writes content, the likes with me, Chris, a couple of others like Data Loft and that sort of stuff. Our content doesn't get shared anywhere near like them doing something for an agent doing something for the community. So it makes good sense.
At the moment, I wrote that article just in Pi, and we were talking about obviously the fantastic computers for schools thing, the way that people get involved there. Then you had the Pigots crew who were doing the British Heart Foundation 100k run. Just such a lovely, simple idea there, and just over 100 people I think got involved and raised some really serious money. So I think it's really good to see that people are backing it. Talk to us though, Jerry, in terms of how it actually works in practice. So you mentioned there, of course, is that you set aside this money and everything else, and then, do you then decide you have a single charity it goes to, or do you pass it on to multiple charities?
We tried to do multiple because it's like lots of little help. So our ideal situation is where at the start of the month we get, say, 6 members come to us and say, I want to donate £100 towards X. And we say, right, we'll match fund that. So that little charity community group, whatever it is, will get 200 quid rather than 100 quid they would have got. So we like that. But if it's a sort of quiet month, and sometimes you literally, and this is a funny one, and sometimes you literally can't give money away. Did you know what I mean? It's like, and I've seen it before where when I worked in the press, there'd be an appeal to say, right, a big company would go, we've got £10,000 to give away to the local community.
Yeah.
Can they get in contact with us? You know, like send us your ideas. And they get 2 or 3 people out of a massive town. So there's money on the table there, sort of thing. So if it sort of runs over and we've got 200 quid left over, we'll donate to the likes of, remember your Australian bushfire appeal? We did, I think there's a few hundred quid to that, because that was one of those months where people didn't step forward. But now that our members know what we're about, that tends not to be the case, because they're coming to us more and more, and we're being more proactive.
And do they literally come to you with the ideas and the charities that they want to get involved with, and you know, they're not just paying out a direct debit or number, they're really getting involved in the whole process.
Yeah. So they're getting involved in the process. They're finding the charities there, because that's where the magic happens. It's not about the donation. It's about the connection you make with the local charity, because then as an agent, those local charities or local community groups, they're made up of local people. So it's a drop effect. So it's like dropping a pebble into a stone, and it ripples out, and you touch more of the community by doing something for the community. Another part that I didn't mention at the start is we have a charity of the year, and I sort of advise any of our members, I've said to them, pick a charity of the year. It's so good. So good for you. Not just, we do it on a monthly direct debit, and we'll have fundraising events. It's a charity called Survive in the Streets, a homeless charity around here, which is sort of in Eastbourne and Hastings. We're sort of near there. And that gives you the opportunity over the course of a year to work with the charity, find out about their story, which is great content. You know, let's get this right. There are not ulterior motives, but there are ulterior benefits.
There's a halo effect, isn't it? That's what they call it.
And you seem to be doing something positive. So by having a charity of the year, you get to know them, you get to tell their story. What we're looking forward to is actually, when we can, is going out and helping them on their soup runs, because I'll be able to write stuff and record videos about that and say, right, look, there's a different world out there.
It's just a classic. It's like the old Kevin Bacon effect, isn't it? Those connections that you talk about making, connections always bring you options, don't they? And things like that, more opportunities. So even if it's doing it for the most altruistic of purposes, you know, things can quite rightly lead off the back of it.
100%. I mean, we've had some doors open for us in terms of being introduced to agents and suppliers from the Karma Club. You know, because people think, you look from the outside looking, and I think this is a good point for agents. If all things being equal, 2 agents are competing for a bit of business. They're both professional. They've both got good market share. They've both got good marketing. They've both got nice sort of people that come out and do the vow. And it's a marginal thing. But if it's, well, you know what? That agency, I've seen their name linked to loads of community projects. They were the ones that helped out Little Jimmy's football team 2 years ago. That could be the winning.
The British cycling team was based on iterative improvement, wasn't it? And tiny margins.
Marginal gains.
And you know, there is that very human emotion that, you know, it's not always possible to work with people you like, but actually as a preference, of course you're going to go down that option, aren't you?
And I'll tell you one thing as well. If agency, especially the ones that want a high fee, not a high fee, but, you know, like they want a 1.5 and they want to stick to that 1.5. If they looked at some of the ethical brands, how they marketed, that's a really good lesson for them to show how it's done, because they're really good at telling the story. Like Abel and Cole. We get Abel and Cole because we're very posh. Let's get that right, This accent belies someone. You know, I want to get my Abel and Cole boxes, take pictures of them and send them to my mates back on the council estate. That's what I want to do.
Well, they say judge a book by its cover, and your book's biz, but
it's behind me. All these books, nonsense. Never read any of them. Literally, never.
Or hollowed out. So,
it's all pretend.
So I think that does make real sense in terms of what you're trying to achieve there, and of course is where do you see it going? I mean, is it just to keep doing more and more of this, or do you have a big goal, if you like, a moon landing kind of thing that you'd love to be able to achieve?
That's a good question. We want to get that B Corp status. That's a really good question. I just think just do good. Just do some good. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of bad in the world. Just do some good. But it makes sense as well. It's not like despite the hair, I'm the least sort of hippie person I can think of. So it's nothing to do with that sort of thing and woolly and soft. It's like I said, we know that if we've hit that Karma Club target, the rest of the business has performed.
Yeah.
Because it means we've retained members, and that's what our game is all about. Now, for estate agents to give it back to them, it's community PR. What's the value of being seen in their community as a supporter of the town or the village that they do business in? That value must be huge.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, the first rule of content in the newspapers and getting editorial, isn't it? There's a very real value put on that. So, you know, it doesn't really matter what, as long as the people are talking about you, as they say, that's the positive element. And we're probably being a little bit unfair because actually, when I was talking about, you know, yes, the smaller agents are nimble and they can change like that. But there's a really wonderful thing that happens with the larger agents as well, where actually I've seen it with many of the larger businesses where actually they've got a really powerful business. They're already kind of doing everything that they need to do. They've conquered their Everest, if you like. So then actually the MDs quite often then really start to focus in on this altruistic end of the scale again, don't they, there, and start pushing putting all their force and support around it. And you know, that's why there is no surprise actually when you see agents giving each year. Some of the corporates and the larger agents do fantastic stuff.
That's a good point. Actually, I weren't sort of dissing the corporates. It's just because I don't work with corporates, so I don't see what they do as much. You know, like your focus is always where your focus is, sort of thing. But one thing I would say as well, and I've often thought about this, and I'd love to know if there is an agency out there that operates in this way. I'd love to speak to them, regardless of, just because I'd be so curious about them. I thought if I was an estate agent, I would run the innocent model, you know, like Innocent back in the day. And this model is now very popular with sort of ethical businesses of giving 10% back, 10% of the profit. Back to, they give it to global projects, environmental, educational awareness around environmental issues and that sort of stuff. But like, if an estate agent actually said, right, we work in town A and we give 10% of our profits back to town A.
Well, not to beat my own drum, and this is a really,
that'd be unlike you, wouldn't it? Beating your own drum.
It's really hollow boast, because when we actually formed the company, I did make the point that we were going to give 5% of all profits to agents giving, just, you know, in whatever way we were going to do. So firmly of the opinion that something needed to be, you know, you needed to have an aim in it. Now, as I said, why it's a hollow boast is, as a prop tech firm, we're not going to make profits for 6 or 7 years, but when we do, they'll be awesome.
but you're a charitable man. I know that you donate to all the different things people are doing, but I would say, like, formalize it. There's nothing wrong with having a chart at the end of the year.
I wanted to ask you about that. So when you talk about you matching it, do you cap it? Do you put, you know, do you have to have a little asterisk and say, you know, above 20 grand or whatever we can't do? Because that would be you know, you're quite right. I do like to help out charities, but I got a little bit almost nervous for you, just in case somebody came in with the best of intentions, and you have to say, God, sorry guys, we can't do that much.
Yeah, well, it's capped every month and it's linked to the membership. So what is it? 600 quid is, what's that? I think I should know this. I think it's 120 members.
Okay.
So we've got 120 members. So if we know, if we're giving away 600 quid, that's a fiver from everyone.
Yeah.
So if we had 100, our model is nearly at its peak anyway. So there's only so many agents you can work with exclusive basis. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So we know that if we're hitting 600 quid a month, which we always round it up, if it's 580, we'll round it up to 600 because people come and go, sort of thing. Yeah. So it can never, if we need to give 700 quid a month, that is a good problem, because that means we've got, what would that mean? How many members we've got? Yeah, exactly. So it's linked to the membership. So the more members, the more money we can actually give. Yeah. So it's that sort of, it's not like, and don't get me wrong, listen, in the run up to Christmas, we gave away a lot more than we were supposed to, because we did something where we worked with 16 different agents. We did help for hospices in the run up to Christmas, because they've been hammered because of COVID. They can't have their fundraising events and that sort of thing. So we just put it out there for November, December. We said, well, look, whoever comes to us with a hospice to support, we'll give you 100 quid if you give them 100 quid.
Yeah.
So I forget what that was, like 1,600 quid over that 2 months. So that was a bit more. But it's just, I think the advice I'd want sort of people to take away from today would be, if they're an agency or even they're a supplier, is try and formalize it a little bit more in terms of, don't just go, and they'd be surprised, because I know with agents are generous. When I've done sponsorship things in the past, it's like sponsored sleeps and stuff like that. Formalize it. So write down, you know, or have someone in the team who said, right, your job, whenever we give some money to charity, just put it on a spreadsheet somewhere, or put it down, because at the end of the year, it's always good to do an end of the year report. Say, right, well, blimey, we've given £2,000 to local good causes. Who did you give to? You give it to the local football club, the local book club, the local gardening club, the charity that helps new mums have a sort of cyber meeting. There's so much good that can be done.
I think the other thing is just as they talk about actual KPIs, not just the karma KPI, but you know, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. Is the refrain, isn't it? There, so being explicit and having it gives you the goal to go at, doesn't it? Rather than some vague, ethereal kind of target.
Yeah, and it gives you a structure, and obviously all good businesses revolve around a structure to some point of view, and just for us, all I can speak of is we've been doing it since September 2019, when we started doing it, and it's always brought loads of good things, lots of good opportunities, lots of good conversations. I think we attract the right type of agent.
Yeah.
Some agents won't give monkeys about it, but that's just people in general. There's some people that, you know, but we seem to attract the right sort of agent.
I mean, it's that birds of a feather flock together, don't they? I mean, like-minded agents will necessarily seek those ones out. And just on that though, I mean, we mentioned there that obviously that computers appeal ironically started with suppliers and spidered off from there. How do you see? Is there a way that suppliers can work with you at Karma Club, or are you just haven't gone down that route at the moment?
I just have a conversation. I'd really like to hear from any sort of suppliers that have what they're doing. Because this I think is the future of business as well, because you're tapping into, like you said, what they call Generation Y.
Yeah.
Is that what they call that? Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
They're going to be much more savvy when it comes to, and another thing is not just giving away money, but I think it's to be seen to be doing the right thing by the environment as well.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, I know you're a big fan of talking about Brexit and Trump and stuff like that, but they are tiny problems, significant problems compared to climate change and stuff like that. And that is going to be something where I think agents need to start telling that story as well.
Look, not to go back over it, but it's something like they surveyed the public, and 70 to 80% of just the general public thought the environmental issue was critical. So there's a real disconnect, isn't there, with actually people's genuine concern, but the seeming activity that is going on. There's a lot of good stuff going on in the background, but as ever, it's never seemingly happening quick enough, is it?
Yeah, and that's it. But that is also an opportunity for estate agents to do something positive by say, right, let's talk about what we're doing for the environment. I work with our local agent, literally the agent in this town. They won the most environmental business award in the local Chamber of Commerce Business Awards. And he said he can track back 10 instructions, 10 completions, to that award. Because they think, right, where did you hear about us? Oh, I saw that bit in the paper where you won that award. Or, oh yeah, we see your marketing and it's always talking about environmental stuff.
It's brand awareness. It's just good old brand awareness, isn't it?
And this brand association. And this applies not just to environmental projects, but to the things like the Karma Club or the community support. You're being associated with something positive.
Yeah.
You know, and you're breaking that stereotype and that misperception of estate agents being all schmucks, because you know that, and we've spoke about this a lot in the past. They're not. Do you know? They're not. The vast majority of good agents. One thing I've noticed: good agents tend to be community minded. Shit agents don't.
Yeah.
So maybe it's that simple. There's the lesson there for estate agents.
Is that because they are so successful that they've made the time for themselves to be able to concentrate on that? Or is there just something else? Is there something else I'm missing?
I put it down to, I think it's such a localized business being an estate agent, and word gets around no matter what.
Yeah.
No matter what, yeah. So if you look at it at a micro level, when they sponsor a football team is sponsoring the classic, that's the classic one, isn't it? Oh, let's sponsor a football team, let's get a name on the kits. Yeah. So you get you get people talking about it, and you get little Johnny running around town with his football kit on after the game. That's great. But I think where they can really do stuff is find more unusual avenues to go down and get involved.
You're going to get better bang for your buck as well, without a shadow of a doubt, aren't you?
Yeah, and tell you what, look at. I tell you, who just popped into my mind. Sasha Scott over in Surrey. They do a community litter pick every month. They'll get some volunteers together. They'll go around with high-vis jackets and pick up rubbish in their local town.
So one of the most demonstrable ways you can be seen, you're out there being it, and who's doing that? Why are you doing that? We run it every month because we're an estate agent and we believe in the community. It's all good, isn't it, as they say?
It's a win-win for everyone. I think the culture of business now, I'd like to think, is going down more of a win-win route.
Yeah.
Where before it was, we have to beat you, so our chunk of the deal has to be much better than your chunk of the deal. But I think people are starting to be a little bit more, well, everyone's got to get a piece of the pie here.
Well, the point about it is that's how you get reciprocal business going forward, isn't it? If the experience wasn't just like any other experience in life, unless you're into S&M, if it feels painful, you're not gonna want to go back, are you?
Yeah. I think there's a lot that can be done, a lot more. It's only just, I think this sort of community, ethical, environmental approach is only just beginning. So agents that really jump on board now, they're going to set themselves up really nicely.
Yeah, in just the way that, be ahead of the curve, like we talk about in prop tech, and yes, it's the right thing to do anyway, but why not do it when you're going to get maximum maximum PR?
And what could be better, right, as an agent to be associated? Oh yeah, they're the ones that do a lot for the community.
Yeah,
it's a lot more powerful story than, oh yeah, they've got the biggest market share. Nobody gives a shit.
There was a local agent around here, and I won't name him, but I really like him. I know the people there are really good, and they had a bit of a faux pas with the, talking about the property market, the opportunity that house prices are. They got they got the story wrong, and that was it. But where I'm dragging this back to our story is, I jumped up and said some supportive things because I did know some of the people there, and I've, funny enough, they've sold my home in the past very successfully. But what I noted was on social, whilst everyone was, outcame, it's not fair to say they're the trolls because it wasn't a great story, but they were getting lambasted. And then, from that karma bank, if you like, they had people standing up and saying, no, these guys do fantastic things in there. They raised X, Y, Z for this charity and that. Now that, you're not doing it for that reason, but it's not a bad side effect, is it?
You know what?
A karma collateral benefit.
But this is true because you've got the goodwill in the bank. You know what? It's like listen, life is a popularity stakes at the best of times, even for businesses. Yeah. Look at remember Ant and Dec. Which one of them got done for drink driving? Do you remember?
And or Dec. I don't know.
Whichever one of them got done. Yeah. But other celebrities, they'd have got hammered, and they kind of got away with it, whichever one it was. Yeah. And you reminded me there of something my uncle used to say, wise old Irish builder. He said, the lake of goodwill is never too deep or too cold. Now, go back then to when he was a builder, he'd always do little jobs for Mrs. O'Halloran for nothing, and Mr. Murphy, back in Ireland for nothing. Just informally, but it would always get around, and Ty Lyons, he's a really good bloke. But when he said the lake of goodwill is never too deep or too cold, my other uncle piped up at a wedding and said it would fucking be if you fell in it.
Yeah. I think that again resonates for me though. I think Tom Panos talks about your reputation is about, what people are saying about you when you're not in the room. And I think that's what it's about, isn't it? If there's all those mini little just whisperings in a positive way, they're just it's totally intangible, but he's a good guy, they're a good company. That matters, doesn't it, ultimately? And in an age where we had Seth Godin was at Peter Knight's fantastic EA Masters.
Yeah. That was brilliant, by the way. I love that session of his.
He's the king of marketing, and everyone will probably know the purple cow standing out from the crowd. Now, when you're talking about free market appraisals, you're not standing out from the crowd, are you? So stuff like this is one of the most demonstrable ways you can stand out from the crowd, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. And doing things like, there's a good project, really good project called B1G1, where I know a couple of agents, they'll say and it's micro level, but it's good. Where if you invite us out for a valuation, we'll donate X amount to B1G1, which stands for buy one, give one. I always get that wrong. Buy one, get one, but it's buy one, give one. But you could do that on a level like download our guide, and we'll give 20p towards 50p towards.
I love those ones where, I mean, some people find them a bit annoying, but look, we're dedicating X, Y, Z, a couple of quid from your fee to, to their tick. Oh, and actually, just like you do, why not have a couple of charities? The soft close as to it's just which charity you're going to choose rather than whether it's the donation itself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. And you know what as well, you get some people say, oh, people banging on about charity. The businesses that go sort of sneer at charity, it's very obvious. They're not the ones that are doing it. They're not. Do you know what I mean? And people say, well, what if my customers don't care about our charitable community work? That's fine. They're not your audience. To go back to Godin, he said, you've got to find your community. You've got to find your tribe. And I bet you, if somebody's making a decision based on, I like these two agents, but that other one, they do a lot more for the community. They seem a lot more environmentally aware. I bet they're quite a good client to deal with.
Yeah,
because they're not
exactly right. They're not going to be the dickhead, are they? They're not going to morph into your difficult client.
I would think so. There's no guarantee because it's people and people are strange, but yeah, I would think so. I think they'd be all right.
Yeah, perfect. All right, so let's just wrap it up then. Now, in terms of people need to want to get involved, you should be getting involved. They can reach out to you directly on social media, or obviously on your fantastic landing page on the Pink site. Obviously there, just drop him a line, or of course drop me a line. I will more than happily share his details.
I'm really keen to speak to agents and suppliers just to see what they're doing for the community, because I'm about to launch a podcast called The Ethical Entrepreneur. Okay. Where I'm going to speak to the likes of some big hitters from Abel and Cole, Patagonia. I'm trying to get loads of businesses like Cook, the frozen food people. We're going to get them on board, and I want to speak to ideally to property people as well, because obviously that will be my starting point.
That's great. Well, certainly put us on the list. We'd love to have a conversation with you on that front.
Yeah, we'll get you on there.
If you're dealing with those giants, you might as well have a minnow or two as well.
Listen, it's all about the small from. If everyone did a little bit, we'd all be in a better place. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Couldn't agree more. Jerry, love your work. Love what you do, the business, what you do with the Karma Club is just fantastic. To you and all your members that do it, absolutely fantastic work.
Thank you very much. I'm off to sleep again. I might go back to
you
sleep.
have another doze, all right?
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers, matey. Bye-bye.
Thanks.